woke up the same way she had woken up for the past 847 days. She opened her eyes, looked at the stone ceiling above her head, and reminded herself that she was still alive. The sun was already coming through the cracks in the old temple walls. Orange light painted strange patterns on the floor, sat up slowly. Her bones hurt. They always hurt now. She was 63 years old, and her body remembered every battle, every wound, every night spent sleeping on cold stone. She put on her boots. The left one was harder to put on because her left leg was not really her leg anymore. She had built it herself from pieces of crashed ships and broken machines. It worked well enough. It let her walk. It let her fight. That was all she needed. Walked outside into the morning light. The world around her was dead. 7 had once been a beautiful moon covered in forests and blue lakes. Now it was burned and gray. The war had come here 2 years ago. Ships had filled the sky. Bombs had fallen like rain. And when the fighting moved on was the only one left. Her whole unit was gone. The 114th Forward Reconnaissance, 42 soldiers who had trusted her to lead them. They had died in the first hour of the attack, had survived only because she had been on patrol far from the base. She had watched the bombs fall from a distant hill. She had seen the fire rise into the sky, and she had known that she was alone. For the first few weeks she had searched for other survivors. She had walked through the burned forests and the ruined cities. She had called out until her voice broke. But there was no one. The enemy had moved on. Her own people had retreated, and Master Sergeant of the Terran Confederacy had been left behind. Most people would have given up. Most people would have found a quiet place to lie down and wait for death. But was not most people. She was human, and humans did not give up. She had found this temple on her 3rd week alone. It was old, built by some alien race that had lived on this moon long before the war. The walls were thick stone that had survived the bombing. The roof still kept out the rain, and deep inside there was a spring of clean water that bubbled up from underground. Had made it her home. She walked now to the highest point of the temple, a broken tower that still stood above the trees. Every morning she climbed the old stairs. Every morning she turned on her emergency beacon, and every morning she sent the same message into the sky. She pressed the button and spoke clearly into the machine. Terran vessel, this is Master Sergeant, service number 7742 Alpha. I am requesting extraction. I am alive. I am still here. She waited, she always waited, but the only answer was silence. Was not surprised. She knew what the galaxy thought of humans. The other races called them dangerous, violent, a species that burned too bright and would burn out too fast. The war with the Dominion had proven them right, at least in the eyes of the galaxy. Millions had died on both sides. Colony worlds had been destroyed. The great human fleets were now just twisted metal floating in empty space. But kept sending her message, because giving up was not something she knew how to do. She climbed back down the tower and began her daily work. There was always work to do. She checked her water filters. She looked at her small garden where she grew vegetables in containers she had built from crashed ship parts. She walked the perimeter of her camp, checking for threats. She cleaned her weapons. The weapons were important. There were still dangerous animals on this moon. 6-legged creatures with too many teeth came out of the forests at night, had killed many of them. She had learned their patterns, their weaknesses, their fears. She had become the most dangerous predator on 7. In the afternoon, she trained. Her body was old, but she refused to let it become weak. She ran through combat drills. She practiced with her knife. She did exercises until her muscles burned and sweat ran down her face. A soldier who stopped training was a soldier who was already dead. When the sun began to set, sat on the temple steps and ate her dinner. It was simple food, cooked meat from one of the animals she had caught, vegetables from her garden, water from the spring. She ate slowly and watched the sky turn from orange to purple to black. The stars came out one by one, knew all of them now. She had named the ones she could see from the temple. She had made them her companions in the long, silent nights. She talked to them sometimes when the loneliness became too heavy to carry alone. "Still here," she said to the stars, "still waiting." Her voice sounded strange in the quiet. She did not hear human voices anymore, not real ones. Sometimes she recited poetry from memory just to hear the words. Sometimes she spoke the names of everyone she had ever served with, one by one, so that she would not forget them. Tonight, she spoke the names of the 114th. The 11th. 42 names. She said each one clearly, giving them the honor they deserved. These had been her people, her family, and she would carry their memory until her last breath. When she finished, went inside the temple and prepared for sleep. She laid down on the bed she had made from salvaged materials. She pulled the thin blanket over her body, and she closed her eyes. Tomorrow she would wake up again. She would climb the tower again. She would send her message again, and she would wait. Because that was what humans did. They endured. They survived. They refused to disappear quietly into the darkness. Was the last human on 7, but she was still a human, and that meant she would never stop fighting to live. The night passed slowly. The stars moved across the sky, and somewhere in the darkness something was falling toward the moon, something that would change everything. But did not know that yet. She only knew the silence and the waiting and the stubborn fire that burned in her chest. She slept, and she dreamed of home. Woke to the sound of thunder, but it was not thunder, it was something falling from the sky. She grabbed her rifle and ran outside. The night was still dark, but a bright line of fire was cutting across the stars. Something was coming down fast, too fast. It was not landing, it was crashing. The fireball disappeared behind the hills to the east. A few seconds later, felt the ground shake beneath her feet. A boom echoed across the dead forests. Then silence. Stood very still. Her heart was beating fast. In 847 days, nothing had fallen from the sky. No ships, no rescue, nothing. And now something had crashed just a few kilometers from her home. She should wait until morning. That would be the smart thing to do. Going into the dark forest was dangerous. The six-legged hunters would be out, and she did not know what had crashed. It could be enemies. But had stopped being careful a long time ago. She was tired of waiting. She was tired of being alone. Whatever had fallen from the sky, she needed to see it. She took her rifle, her knife, and a small bag of supplies. Then she walked into the darkness. The journey took 2 hours. Moved carefully, watching for predators. Twice she heard movement in the bushes and stopped. Twice the sound moved away. The animals had learned to fear her. When she got close to the crash site, she could see the glow of fire through the trees. The smell of burning filled the air. Something chemical and strange. Not human. Not like any ship she had seen before. Crept forward until she could see the wreckage. The ship was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was not made of metal. It looked almost alive, with a surface that seemed like skin more than hull. Bioluminescent fluids leaked from cracks in its body, glowing blue and green in the darkness. The ship was dying. She could somehow feel it. This was a vessel. Knew about everyone did. They were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. Dragon-like beings, powerful and proud, who had stayed out of the human war. They were empaths who could sense emotions across species. They lived for hundreds of years, and they were fiercely protective of their young. Raised her rifle and approached slowly. She did not know if anyone had survived. She did not know if they would be friendly. Then she heard the sound. It was a small sound, a whimper like a frightened child. Moved around the broken ship, and what she found there made her stop breathing. 4 young huddled together in the wreckage. They were children. The oldest looked about 12 in human terms, a thin creature with scales that shimmered purple and gold in the firelight. The other 3 were smaller, much smaller. The youngest could not have been more than 3 or 4. Their wings were too small to fly, their eyes were too big for their faces, and they were terrified. Near them, lying on the burned ground, was an adult, a female. She had wrapped her body around the children during the crash. She had protected them with her own flesh, but the protection had cost her everything. Could see the wounds. They were too deep, too many. The mother was dying. The oldest child saw first. The young spread her wings and put herself between and her siblings. She hissed a warning, trying to sound dangerous, but her voice shook. She was a child pretending to be brave. Understood that kind of bravery. She had seen it in young soldiers facing their first battle. She had felt it in herself, long ago, when she was young and scared and trying to look strong. She lowered her rifle. She held up her hands, showing she meant no harm. "Easy," said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." The child did not understand the words, but were empaths. They could feel emotions. And what this child felt from must have been unexpected. The fear in her eyes changed to confusion, then to something like hope. Walked past the children and knelt beside the dying mother. The female was beautiful even now. Her scales were deep blue like the ocean on a world barely remembered. Her eyes were gold, ancient and knowing. She looked at with a mother's understanding. She knew she was going to die. She knew her children would be alone. The mother reached out with one clawed hand and Grab's wrist. The touch sent something rushing into his mind. Images, feelings, a desperate message that needed no words. She saw the family's home, a beautiful world of floating mountains and endless sky. She felt the mother's love for her children, fierce and total, bigger than fear, bigger than death. And she felt the mother's plea. "Protect them, please. They are all that matters, keep them safe." Had made many promises in her life. She had promised to serve the Terran Confederacy. She had promised to protect her soldiers. She had promised to never surrender, never give up, never stop fighting. She had broken some of those promises. Her soldiers were dead. Her Confederacy had abandoned her. The war had taken everything. But this promise was different. This promise was simple. A mother was asking her to protect 4 children. Nothing else mattered. "I will," said. The mother's grip relaxed. Something like peace came into her golden eyes. She looked at her children one last time. All her love was in that look, all her hope, all her trust in this strange human who had appeared from the darkness. Then she closed her eyes, her body went still, and she was gone. Stayed kneeling for a long moment. She had seen death many times. She had held dying soldiers in her arms. She had said goodbye to friends. But this felt different, heavier, more important. She stood up slowly and turned to face the children. 4 pairs of eyes stared at her. They were scared. They were confused. They had just watched their mother die. And now they were looking at an alien creature they had never seen before, hoping somehow that she could make things okay. The oldest child spoke. Her voice was small and broken. Did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. Every child in the universe asked the same question when they were scared and alone. "What happens now?" Looked at them, she looked at the dead mother, she looked at the burning ship, and she made her choice. "Now," she said, "you come with me." She held out her hand. The oldest child looked at it for a long time. Then slowly she reached out and took it. Her scales were warm against skin. Her claws were sharp but gentle. And in that moment something changed. Something began. Was not alone anymore. She had a family again. The first months were the hardest thing had ever done, and had done many hard things. The children did not speak her language. She did not speak theirs. They did not eat the same food. They did not sleep the same way. Everything about them was different. Everything about her was strange to them. But they had nowhere else to go, and had made a promise. She learned their names first. The oldest she was 12 in human years, thin and scared but trying so hard to be brave for her siblings. Next was a boy of about 10 with clever eyes and quick hands. Then came Davin, 8 years old, quiet and careful, always watching everything. And finally there was the smallest, barely 4 years old, with wings too tiny to lift her off the ground. In the beginning, the children were afraid of her. They huddled together at night, as far from as they could get while still staying in the temple. When she moved too fast, they flinched. When she spoke too loud, they hissed. They were wild, wounded creatures who had lost everything. Understood, she gave them space. She moved slowly, she spoke softly, and she kept them fed. This was the first problem. Children needed specific things to eat. Their bodies needed nutrients that did not have. In the first week, Little started to get weak. Her scales lost their shine. She stopped playing. Worked through 2 nights without sleep. She studied the remains of the crashed ship. She found the family's food supplies, but they were ruined in the crash. She found data files that she could not read. She experimented with local plants, testing them carefully, watching for reactions. By the 3rd week, she had figured it out. Certain plants on 7 contained the right nutrients. She just had to process them correctly. She built a new system in her garden. She created supplements from forest roots and crushed minerals. Got stronger. Her scales began to shine again. Watched all of this. Could feel the young studying her, trying to understand. Why was this alien working so hard to save them? What did she want? Wanted nothing. She had made a promise. That was enough. The second problem was the scales. Needed special oils to keep their scales healthy. Without treatment, the scales would crack and flake, causing pain and sickness. On there, these oils came from specific plants. On 7, those plants did not exist. Again, worked to find a solution. She tested dozens of local plants. She burned her hands with bad experiments. She stayed awake for nights, mixing and trying and failing. Finally, she found an answer. A type of moss that grew near the water spring could be processed into a suitable oil. It was not perfect, but it worked. She showed how to apply the oil. The young was suspicious at first, but when she felt the relief on her dry, cracking scales, something changed in her eyes. She looked at differently after that. The third problem was sleep. Children did not sleep alone. They slept in piles, pressed together, sharing warmth and comfort. It was how they felt safe. When put them in a separate corner of the temple and slept by herself, they cried through the night. The sound was terrible, a high, keening wail that seemed to shake the walls. After 3 nights of this, moved her sleeping mat next to theirs. The crying stopped. The children pressed against her while they slept, their warm bodies curled around hers. Little liked to tuck her head under his arm. It was strange at first, had not been touched with kindness in years. She had almost forgotten what it felt like. But slowly she got used to it. Slowly she started to need it too. As the months passed, began to teach the children. She had nothing else to give them. No home, no future she could promise, only the skills that had kept her alive. She taught to hunt. The oldest girl was a natural predator. Her body was built for it, but she had never been trained. On there, hunting was taught by elders over many years. Had been too young when the crash happened. She had never learned. Taught her everything. How to track animals through the forest, how to set traps, how to move silently, how to kill quickly so the prey did not suffer. Learned fast. Within a year she was hunting on her own, bringing back food for her siblings. She taught to build and repair things. The boy had a gift for understanding machines. He looked at makeshift equipment and saw how it worked. He asked questions with his eyes and his hands since they still had no shared language. Showed him everything she knew about engineering. She let him take apart her tools and put them back together. By the 2nd year, had rebuilt the emergency beacon 3 times. Each version was better than the last. She taught Davin to navigate. The quiet boy had been hurt in the crash. Something in his mind was damaged. He could not find his way the way other could. He got lost easily, confused by directions, unable to sense where he was. It frightened him. Showed him how humans found their way. Look at the stars. Remember landmarks, make maps in your mind, watch where the sun rises and sets. Davin listened carefully to every lesson. He practiced every day, and slowly his fear began to fade. He could find his way now. He was not lost anymore. And the smallest simply loved. She held when she cried. She sang to her in languages the little could not understand. She made up games to play. She told stories using her hands and her face since she had no words that knew. When finally took her first flight, her wings strong enough at last to carry her, stood below and watched with tears in her eyes. The little flew in wobbly circles around the temple, shrieking with joy. When she landed, she ran to and wrapped her small arms around the human's legs, picked her up and held her close. "I am proud of you," she said. Did not understand the words, but she understood the feeling. She pressed her head against chest and purred. 3 years passed. The children grew. They learned language and taught her theirs. They became a family. The galaxy thought humans were violent and dangerous. The other races believed humanity could only destroy. But here in the ruins of an old temple on a dead moon, a human soldier was doing something different. She was healing. She was teaching. She was loving. And 4 dragon children were learning that the universe was not as dark as it seemed, because in the darkness they had found a light. Her name was, and she was their mother now. On day 1547, the beacon finally reached someone. Was in the courtyard of the temple, teaching advanced combat techniques. The young was 15 now, tall and strong, her scales a deep purple that caught the sunlight like jewels. She moved with deadly grace, her claws and tail working together in ways had never seen before. They had combined human fighting styles with natural abilities. The result was something new, something powerful, could defeat any predator on 7. She had proven it many times. "Good," said as finished a complicated series of movements. "But your left side is still open. If I had a knife, I could get you here." She touched ribs. Nodded seriously. She always took the training seriously. She understood why it mattered. The galaxy was not a safe place. Being able to fight meant being able to protect her family. The other children were nearby. Was working on some piece of equipment, his clever hands moving fast. Davin sat on the temple steps, drawing maps of the stars he had observed the night before. And now 7 years old was flying lazy circles above them all, practicing the tricks had taught her. It was a normal day. A good day. The kind of day that made forget, just for a little while, that they were stranded on a dead moon with no hope of rescue. Then the comm unit crackled. Everyone froze. The comm unit had been silent for over 4 years, had kept sending her message every morning, but no one had ever answered. She had stopped expecting anyone to answer. But now there was a voice coming from the machine. "Unidentified station, this is the vessel sanctuary of stars. We are responding to your beacon signal. Please confirm your status." His heart stopped. For a moment she could not move, could not think, could not believe what she was hearing. It was who moved first. She ran to and grabbed her arm, her claws gripping tight. Her eyes were wide with shock and something else. Fear. "Mother," said. It was the word she had started using 2 years ago. The first time she said it had cried. "Mother, that is a ship." "I know," said. Her voice was shaking. "I know." The other children had gathered around now, looked excited. A ship meant technology, equipment, maybe news from the galaxy. Davin looked nervous, pressing close to his side. He did not like change. Change was scary. And had landed on shoulders, her small claws holding tight to the human's shirt. She was trembling. "Do not let them take us away from you," whispered. "Please, Mama, I do not want to go." Reached up and put her hand over his small claw. "No one is taking you anywhere," she said. "Not without me." She walked to the comm unit and pressed the transmit button. "Sanctuary of Stars, this is Master Sergeant Terran Confederacy. I have 4 miners in my care. We are requesting extraction for all 5 of us." There was a long silence. Could imagine the confusion on the ship. A human, alone on a dead moon claiming to have children in her care. It must have sounded impossible. The voice came back, confused and careful. "Did you say Terran? There are no Terran vessels in this sector. The human war ended 3 years ago. We believed all humans had left this region of space." "I am not a vessel," said. "I am a survivor. I was left behind when my unit was destroyed. I found these children after their ship crashed. Their mother asked me to protect them. I have been caring for them for over 4 years." Another long silence. Then a different voice came over the comm. This one was deeper, older, carrying the weight of authority. "Human, this is Captain of the Sanctuary of Stars. What you are describing is unprecedented. No human has ever raised young. Our species have had very little contact. How can you prove what you are saying?" Looked at her children. Stood tall, her purple scales shining. Had his arms crossed, looking ready to argue with anyone who doubted them. Davin pressed against side and clung to her shoulders. "Ask them," said. "When you get here, ask the children, they will tell you." There was silence again. Then the captain spoke, his voice different now, softer, almost amazed. "We are detecting 4 life signs near your beacon. They are healthy, strong. How is this possible? Our children require very specific care, very specific conditions. How could a human provide these things?" Thought about the nights she had stayed awake, working to find the right nutrients, the experiments that had burned her hands, the hours spent learning to make the scale oils, the years of holding, teaching, loving. "I figured it out," she said simply. "I made a promise to their mother, I kept it." The captain was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "Master Sergeant, the High Council will want to meet you. You have done something that our scholars believed was impossible. You have bridged a gap between our species that we did not know could be bridged." Did not care about scholars or councils. She cared about one thing. "Will you take all of us, me and the children, together?" "Yes," the captain said. "All of you. We will be there in 6 hours." Turned off the comm and stood very still. After all this time, after all the waiting, someone had finally come. Was crying. Had never seen her cry before, not since those first terrible weeks after the crash. But now tears were running down her purple scales, and she was making no move to hide them. "I thought we would be here forever," said. "I thought no one would ever come." Pulled her close, joined them, then Davin then. They stood in a circle with their arms around each other, holding tight. "I knew someone would come," said. "I never stopped believing." Looked up at her, his clever eyes were shining. "You sent that message every day," he said. "Every single day for 4 years, even when there was no answer. Why?" Smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "Because that is what humans do," she said. "We do not give up, we keep trying, we keep hopping. No matter how long it takes, no matter how impossible it seems." Pressed her face against his neck. "Humans are stubborn," the little said. Laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in a very long time. "Yes," she said, "we are very stubborn. It is one of our best qualities." They spent the next 6 hours preparing. They gathered their few belongings. They said goodbye to the temple that had been their home, walked through every room, touching the walls, remembering. When the ship finally appeared in the sky, it was beautiful. A living vessel, glowing with soft light, moving through the air like a great and graceful creature. Stood with her children and watched it descend. A new life was waiting for them, a new future, a galaxy that would finally know what had happened here. A human and 4 dragon children, surviving together, becoming a family against all odds. Was not afraid, she had her children, they had her. Everything else was just details. 12 years had passed since the rescue. Sat in a comfortable chair on the observation deck of a great space station. Through the massive window in front of her, she could see a planet, a green and blue world covered with forests and oceans. Cities sparkled on its surface like scattered jewels. This was New Terra, the rebuilt human. The war with the had ended long ago. Peace had come to the galaxy and had helped make it happen. She did not think about that much. She did not care about being a hero or a symbol. She was just an old woman now, 75 years old, with white hair and tired bones and a body that was finally giving up. The doctors had told her months ago. Her heart was failing. Her lungs were weak. Too many years in bad conditions. Too many battles, too much strain. Even the best medicine could not fix everything. Had accepted it calmly. She had lived a good life. She had kept her promises. She was ready. But she wanted to see her children one more time. They were coming today, all 4 of them. They had promised. Smiled and closed her eyes. She thought about the years since the rescue. So much had changed. The story of the human soldier who raised 4 orphans had spread across the galaxy. At first, people did not believe it. Then they saw the children. They heard the story. They understood. It changed everything. Humans and began to talk, really talk for the first time in centuries. They discovered they had more in common than they thought. Both species were stubborn. Both were protective of their young. Both valued loyalty and courage and love. The peace that followed was built on this understanding, had spoken at councils and assemblies. She had told her story again and again, not because she wanted fame, but because her children asked her to, because they believed it mattered. And it did matter. It mattered very much. Was a captain now. She commanded a ship in the combined Terran fleet, leading a crew of both species. She was fierce and fair and respected by everyone who served with her. Her combat skills were legendary, but what people remembered most about her was her compassion. She had learned that from a human soldier on a dead moon. Had become a famous engineer. His innovations had changed how ships were built. He had found ways to combine human technology with bioengineering, creating vessels that were stronger and faster than anything before. Scientists came from across the galaxy to learn from him, but still said that everything he knew, he had learned from watching a human woman rebuild her own leg from crashed ship parts. Davin was an explorer. He navigated the deep reaches of space, mapping new systems, finding new worlds. The boy who had once been lost and afraid now guided entire fleets through unknown territory. He had never forgotten the lessons taught him. Look at the stars. Remember the landmarks. Make maps in your mind. You are not lost anymore. And Little had become something unexpected. She was a diplomat. She spent her life traveling between species, building bridges, solving conflicts. She had a gift for understanding different peoples, for finding common ground. She said she learned it from growing up in 2 cultures at once, from having a mother who was different from her in every way and the same in all the ways that mattered. Opened her eyes when she heard the door open. 4 figures entered the observation deck. They were adults now, full-grown with powerful bodies and magnificent wings. Their scales caught the light from the stars outside, was deep purple like royalty, was silver and blue. Davin was green like forest leaves, and was gold, bright and beautiful. They were not children anymore. They were leaders and heroes and legends in their own right. But when they saw, they became children again. They rushed to her. They surrounded her chair. They pressed close, the way they used to when they were small and scared and the only safe place in the universe was near her. Was crying. She took his hand in her claws so gently, so carefully. "Mama," she said. Her voice was the same. Even after all these years, it was the same voice that had once called for comfort in the dark. "Mama, we are sorry we are late." Smiled, her heart was full, so full it hurt, but it was a good hurt. "You are not late," she said. "You are exactly on time. You have always been exactly on time." Knelt beside the chair. Her purple scales were close to his face. Her golden eyes, so like her birth mother's, were bright with tears. We came as fast as we could, said. When we heard you were sick, we all came. Nothing could have stopped us. I know, said, I know. They stayed like that for a long time. 4 dragon children and 1 human mother. A family that the galaxy had said was impossible. Finally spoke again. Her voice was weak now but steady. I need you to do something for me, she said. Anything, said. His clever eyes were serious. He was already trying to think of solutions, ways to fix things, machines that might help. But some things could not be fixed with machines. Keep going, said. Keep building bridges. Keep showing them what we can be, humans and all the others. Keep proving that love is stronger than fear, that family is more than blood. She looked at each of them, her children, her legacy, the proof that one human could change everything just by keeping a promise. I am so proud of you, she said. All of you. I have been proud of you since the moment I found you, and I will be proud of you forever. Davin made a sound, a quiet, broken sound. He had always been the quiet one, but now his voice was thick with grief. We are not ready, he said. We are not ready to lose you. Reached out and touched his green scales. You will never lose me, she said. I will be in the stars you navigate by. I will be in the bridges builds. I will be in the ships creates. I will be in every battle fights. I am part of you now, and you are part of me. That does not end. She was tired, so tired, but she had one more thing to say. Your mother, she said, your first mother, she asked me to protect you. She trusted me with the most precious thing in her life. I hope I made her proud too. Leaned close, her golden scales touched a cheek. You did, whispered. You did, Mama, you made everyone proud. Closed her eyes. She could feel her children around her, their warmth, their love, the bond that had grown over so many years through so many struggles against all odds. She thought about the dead moon, the ruined temple, the burned forests. She thought about the morning she found 4 frightened children and decided to keep them alive. She thought about the promise she had made to a dying mother. I will protect them. She had done it. She had kept her word. That was enough. That was everything. Master Sergeant, mother, hero, and bridge between worlds, took her last breath surrounded by love. Her children held her as she went, and when she was gone, they held each other. The stars shone through the window. The universe continued on its ancient path, and somewhere in the light between worlds, a soldier finally rested. But her story was not over. It would never be over, because her children would tell it to their children, and those children would tell it to theirs, and the galaxy would remember forever the human who waited alone until 4 dragon children arrived, and who loved them until her last breath. The end was also a beginning. And the beginning was love.